Iron City built. It's time for the Steel City Nation podcast. Here's your host, Mark Mariday.
My guest today is Tre Tipton of the Pitt Panthers. Tre was lucky enough to get himself a sixth year at Pitt. He's had some unfortunate injury issues and things like that. And along with his red shirt, it's afforded him the opportunity to come back and be a key contributor in what's going to probably be a really good Pitt Panther team, this 2020 team. Defensively, offensively, they got a lot of key parts back. Tre, how are you?
I'm doing great. It's been a blessing to be here. I'm thankful for you having me on. I appreciate you calling me in.
Thanks for coming on. So you go to Pitt via a small western PA town, Apollo Ridge High School. How'd they find you? What was the recruiting process like? I know you got to think back to a minute ago, but what was that like for you?
It was an incredible process. I had a great coach at the time in John Skiba. He did everything he could in his power to get me in front of any eyes possible. He felt like I was a Division I guy, but being from Alakiski, it's not likely for you to get a scholarship, especially from somewhere such as Apollo. But it's a great town. It's a football town, and I just wanted to from where I was from, so to do so, and it's just I've been a Pitt Panther since 2015.
So who were some of the other schools that showed some interest in you, and why'd you choose Pitt? I know there had to be some other people. If Pitt's looking at you, others are looking at you.
Yeah, there was a couple people. We had Michigan State, Toledo, pretty much all the MAC schools. But I stopped my recruiting process once I got to Pitt, and the reason why I stopped my recruiting process is because Pitt has always been home. It's nothing like home. I always wanted to play for my city. I wanted to play for somebody that I knew what I was playing for. I knew everything I had. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew that going through the city, people would recognize me. So all that thing was definitely a recruiting process, because home can't be anything like home.
No, and the family gets to come out and watch you play, and all your friends. I mean, I agree with you 100%. I hear you 100%. Since you were a multi-sport athlete in high school, during the fall with football, spring you did track. Did you do anything in the winter, or did you just work out?
Winter, I played basketball. Honestly, basketball was my first sport, my first love, to be honest with you, boss. It's really one of those sports where I just found like an amazing connection with the people, not only the people, but the sport itself. I mean, everything about basketball was one of my favorite things, and still to this day is my favorite things to do when I'm just bored and trying to find time. But I did basketball in the winter, track in the spring, and then I did football, as everybody knows, because I'm a football player. But basketball was my winter sport, and it's always been one of my favorites. I felt like I was one of the decent players in the field, but that's just me tooting my own horn a little bit.
Coach Capel talk to you at all? He wants you to come over there and be the sixth man?
I wish. If he had talked to me about doing that, I took the chance. But we got some incredible guys even on the team now that could really play at another level. So I definitely would have appreciated it, but it didn't unfortunately happen.
I love the things he has going on there. Talk a little bit about your early years at Pitt when you first came in, and what was it, 15? What was happening for you? How'd you feel? Did you think you were going to be an integral part coming right in?
I've always had full confidence in myself. It took a lot out of me that year. I played a decent role within the year, playing next to Tyler Boyd, and unfortunately that year James Conner did not play, but played a strong year, started out really well, ended up getting hurt, suffered through depression, anxiety, and a boatload of other things. But the freshman year was my toughest year, I'd have to per se. And then my sophomore year, due to another injury, I was taken out. It was a lot tougher and a lot more real than my other injury. My other injury was a sprain to the PCL, my LCL. And then my second year, my lung collapsed on the field against Miami. That was tough because I didn't really understand what was going on. So I was just out there playing to play at that point, So we were trying to figure that aspect out. And then it's just been injury after injury. So now I'm thankful enough that hopefully I can stay healthy through this upcoming season and being my last season. And I'm so thankful for this last season just because the NCAA granted me my 6th year, which is huge for me.
Yeah, definitely. Who were some of your influences in your game growing up? The most, who impacted the way you play this game? And I know you dropped Tyler Boyd's name, and I know you
Right.
said James Conner was part of your team. But who was out there for you? Any coaches particularly impact you?
Honestly, the person who influenced me the more in my route running from afar was Tyler Boyd. Never was genuinely like super close, but he always dropped knowledge when he had an opportunity to, which was I took the great passion and great effort in trying to make sure that I lived up to that standard as well. And then James, from a mental standpoint, with everything that he'd been through, he definitely built something within me to help me continue to push forward. So those guys on the field, having those type of teammates was huge for me. I had incredible roommates. I had Jordan Whitehead, who was pivotal to my growing experience at Pitt, as well as Quadri Henderson and Dane Jackson, which are all great men. Just had a lot of good guys, man. Played a huge role. Now I can say the coach that's definitely impacted me the most is my current coach. I want to say Chris Beatty has definitely been very pivotal to my transformation as an athlete, as a receiver. But not only as a receiver, as a man, he teaches us a lot in the film room as well, more than just the X's and O's. So I'm very thankful.
That's awesome. I can only imagine what you've gained. I mean, you really had some quality people around you that have excelled on and off the field. So that's awesome to hear. And I know you do the same things, just following along with what you're doing in your career. You've had some different offensive coordinators since you got there.
Correct.
Which system has fit your skill set the best? Are they working with your skill set, or are they like, this is our offense, this is how we're doing it?
I'd say the best offense that's fit my skill set is the current offense. The current offense is definitely up there. Pass the ball around for us because as before, fine by getting, but opportunity to really showcase your skills, you like taking full advantage of it. So the opportunity to do so was huge, was definitely huge for us, especially even in the receiver room. We got an opportunity now, more so than any year, to have huge impact.
I know you can't really do too much currently in terms of team-related activity. I know you're doing some, but you've been working with Kenny and the other skill guys. You guys have been out throwing it. Talk a little bit about what's going on that you can do.
As of right now, what we can do is we can have up to about 20 players together. We're working together to make sure that we can do everything that we can to stay healthy. I like to think that our universities are all with keeping each other healthy and keeping everything that we need healthy. The guys, so far, we've been throwing every day that we can. Kenny's been adamant about throwing, even though but I can see his drive and his hunger to get to where he wants to be. So it's nice to see. It's definitely nice to see on how he's being productive this year and how he expects production out of us, which is huge. So we're excited to see what this year has to hold.
Yeah, I am too for you guys. I really am. You're somewhat unique though, in that the NCAA offered you that 6th year. Usually
Yeah.
that's a daunting thing to get out of them. Were you a little scared? I mean, did you have a fallback plan in case that didn't go through?
Honestly, you never truly know what's going to go on. I mean, everything that went on with the 6th year, it was very stressful. I had to find a way to bounce back within myself and find myself just to see who I was religiously more so than anything. But not only that, it created a different person, man. It created something in me that I feel like was necessary. I had to grow up. I had to become my own man. It was definitely a more difficult task than I had expected, but it was necessary, as I said before. So it was definitely a scary process to what you were saying. It was more scary than I was expected, but it definitely taught me a lot. And going through the process, the NCAA was wishy-washy, and my coach even had to take time to really sit down with me to make sure that I wanted to come back. Suffering 4 injuries in 5 years, that can do a lot to somebody's mental. But once we made that decision, and I sat myself down and my family down to really think about what I wanted to do and what initial steps I wanted to take, I couldn't let football go without knowing that I had one more chance. So then the football team had taken the opportunity to give me that chance by talking to some people and getting my story out to the NCAA, and eventually the NCAA replied with me having a 6th year. So in that moment, I was very ecstatic, very emotional, and very thankful.
There's another guy who came through the same general area that you came from Kiski, a guy by the name of Adam Gunn. He got a 6th year too. So maybe there's something in the water there at the NCAA. Likes will give you a 6th year. Um,
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Can you share a little bit what you think your personal, what you've established for your personal goals this year? Because I know you got to have some personal goals. You got to be driven by it. I know you're a team-oriented guy. I hear it in your voice. We had a little chit-chat before. We talked off the camera, but I know you got to have some personal goals you want to reach.
Yeah, I got personal goals here and then. One of my personal goals is to be the best teammate that I could possibly be, as team oriented, as you explained before. But for my personal self, is the biggest one is to stay healthy, remain healthy, and get through a full season. I know I can compete with anybody at any given time, and I know I'm willing to compete with anybody at any given time. So to stay healthy and just knowing that I can play at every single down and every single snap that they need me, I want to be able to do that. And then not only that is to get as far as we possibly can. Unfortunately, we don't know what the season's going to do due to COVID, but whatever they present us, whatever challenge they may present within the season this year, we just hope to accomplish everything. And I hope as a player myself, just to accomplish, go out on a bang. My biggest thing, that's my biggest goal right now, is just to finish strong.
In the back of your head, are you looking at the opportunity to go the next level, or you thinking, okay, I'm going to finish this out strong and what happens, happens?
And that is more so on that end. Your second choice right there is whatever happens, happens at this point. I've been through a boatload of things, and I've pushed and I've strived to get everywhere that I needed to be. But at this moment, it's more so just taking it day by day and truly, genuinely appreciating every moment that we have together. So I really force myself to appreciate the moments that I have with my teammates, because I don't know how long it's going to last. I don't know if I'm going to be playing the sport after this year. So I've been kicking my own butt to make sure that I'm in the right shape and doing everything that I can to be the best me.
Could you see yourself coaching after this?
I thought about it, man. A lot of people ask me about it a lot too, which is crazy because people say that I'm a good teacher, but I gotta prove it to myself first. I gotta see where my heart lies, after the football season, seeing how involved I want to be. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah. So Pitt's getting a lot of they're getting a lot of press with that defense. I mean, a lot of those guys could have moved on and chose to come back and be productive contributors. What is it? It's Twyman's birthday today. I saw on Twitter. That D-line, two guys back who sat out last year. I've seen you guys anywhere from first to third in the ACC as far as defense goes. Does that put any pressure on that offense to hold up its end? You guys have got to put some numbers on the board. Maybe not quite as much as other people, but you guys got to put some numbers on the board. Is there pressure on that offense with that?
No, we don't really have much pressure. It's because of the defense that we don't have a crazy amount of pressure, to be honest with you. We know how strong they are and what their abilities are and their capabilities, but we also know that we work hard. We know where we want to go as well. We know what we want to do as well. So we want to make sure that we hold up our end of the bargain at the end of the day to get that W, to get that win. Score as many points as possible when they hold that team to 0 points,
Have you guys been meeting via Zoom to talk about where you're headed as a team, or your team goals for the year? I mean, is coach setting you up with that, or you talk about that when you 20 guys are together?
We talk about team goals often. Coach talks about it as well. We all know if we're presented the season, we fully believe that we can win every game this season. So we're presenting that we can. We're putting on the field. We're wanting to be as close as COVID, but everything past that, we do everything we can to be a close team.
You thinking about playing that Clemson team in the ACC Championship?
And if we get the chance to play in the ACC Championship, that's our first thought, to be honest with you. Whatever team presents themselves, however we got to get there, we're going to get there.
Yeah. Let's talk about your degree a little bit. You graduated with and what you're actually pursuing in grad school. Can you talk a little bit about that for me?
Mm-hmm. So currently I graduated with a communications degree as well as a sociology degree. I'm currently going to school for social work. It's definitely a rigorous challenge. We have to every day just to stay in class. But it's I will definitely since I've been at the University of Pittsburgh, and it hopes to remain that way. But it's definitely been a good process. Yes, social work, I really enjoy everything. It's always been my on the mental health aspect and things that I need to know and understand.
Yeah, I hear you. I did some social work before I actually got into being a true social worker as a teacher and a coach. I think it's great. I think it's great you started your own project and it's picking up steam for you. Can you talk a little bit about what inspired you to create Love and what your vision is going forward with that?
Can you hear me? I'm sorry, you broke up a little bit.
Yeah, I said, can you tell us a little bit about what inspired you to create your project, your baby that you got, Love? Can you talk about that for us, please?
So Love came about through a series of injuries that I had myself. I went through a lot, as we talked about a little bit before in discussion. Dealt with injuries, multiple injuries to my knee, dealt with a lung injury, and it was just always a constant battle. But most of it came from my depression and anxiety that I faced through those injuries. I had been suffering depression and suicidal thoughts since I was 7 years old, was really battling a lot of things in my life, and I had attempted my life. I ended up attempting my life 3 times in a row my freshman year of college. And I got to the point my sophomore year of college where I actually almost died on the football field when my lung had collapsed. And I realized that there was a lot more to life than what I was feeling. You know what I mean? There's a lot more to life that was out there that I needed to feel. And then that following year, I was really excited to get back to football, to really have a breakout year, breakout season, end up tearing my knee, completely blowing out my knee, doing stupid stuff at the time. And it hurt, that was a really, really tough time for me. It was definitely pivotal in my life. So I had to grow up. So I took advantage of that moment to be the most positive I could possibly be ever. I really built my positivity in whatever which way possible. And I feel like that's when love really truly started. Me and my best friend, Ely, we sat down, talked about it a lot. We talked about what we wanted to do, talked about how much we cared about people, but we also talked about our injuries and how bad it really, it got to us. So I came up with this idea. I presented to him the idea, then took it to SAC, and we ended up getting on two, 3 more people adding on board. And then we created this program that we end up calling Love. The program stands for Living Out Victoriously Every Day. And the ultimate goal is to have people in every single moment of their life find a way to find a victory. Because at the end of the day, we know that you spend 365 days with yourself. You spend 24/7 with yourself and your mind. Everything that you're thinking about, it's all you all the time.
Yeah.
And we wanted to be able to be that group to create community, to give them an opportunity to really build on yourself, give you an opportunity just to be you, whatever that may be, away from sports, because a lot of athletes have a tough time understanding who am I besides my sport.
Yeah.
And we wanted to help find that. We wanted to help create that. So that was the background behind creating that program and creating Love.
So how are you reaching out to the community with it? Is it a community-based project that you've created here, or is it something you do just at the university? Is it a group of guys that join a group of guys and ladies that join together and talk about this? How do you manifest it?
So how we manifest it is it's a 5-week program, which we take a hard initiative trying to figure out what the 5 weeks should look like. The first week is trust. The second week is confidence, appreciation, motivation. And there's a fourth one I can't really think of right now. But essentially what we're trying to do is we're trying to stack wins on themselves. So we allowed you to build within the culture within that 5-week program. Each week is different, completely different from the next week. And reason being is we want them to completely feel comfortable, but just getting to know the other people around them. So it's a group of 3 of us, as of right now. It's my man, Ely Khalil, my friend Chris Gomez, and myself, and a couple other guys here and there. And we created this program. We go speak at schools about mental prosperity and love and what it means and what it represents. But we also mainly focus on love as a program. How can we benefit the student athletes? We've seen anywhere between 50 to 120 athletes overall, which is incredible, to have the opportunity to create that atmosphere for them and whatnot. But it's just a journey, we're able to continuously build and help people find friends that they would have never been friends with otherwise, so it's definitely cool.
It's interesting you talk about that, because one of the big things we're fighting right now in the high school, because I teach high school health, one of the things we're fighting is the mental health. It's a crisis. It's a crisis. And you talked about all the things we might reach out to them and accomplish with them. So that's spectacular that you're going out there and you're reaching out and you're getting people to get involved in this for you. I mean, keep fighting that battle. Keep reaching out to them. There are a lot of young people out there that just don't know what direction to turn. And having some voices come in is integral. It really is.
I appreciate that for sure.
I ask every guest that I have on, I ask them this question, and I kind of go away from the sports element of it. I ask them if they weren't going down the career path that they're currently choosing, what career path would you like to see yourself go down?
Honestly, my goal right now beyond nonprofit and social work is to be an entrepreneur, find myself in multiple businesses and multiple real estate. Most of my close friends are of all facets of life. Some of them have ideals in real estate. Some of them have ideals in insurance. Some of them have ideals in so many different places. And ultimately, I want to be like, I can't think of his name right now. This guy, he changed. I watched his documentary and it changed my life because he had connections to every single place. Everywhere in the world, it was a connection that he was connected. And that was a way that he made his money, is through consulting and helping people do what they must do to get them to where they needed to be. And I just found myself being really passionate about helping people, and if love can grow into something like that, I would be more than thankful.
There's, I had my last guest who was on is doing it through a program down here in Maryland called the 480 Club. And he reaches out by doing it with young kids, real young kids. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to connect you guys because you seem to have a similar path, but you're going about it two different ways. And I think if you converge your paths, it's really going to help both of you to learn, grow, and prosper from what you're doing.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So my final segment that I want to do with you, I want you to tell me about the 5 most memorable games you've had in your career.
All right. Number one, for sure, by far, by none, is Clemson. I'll never forget that game to the day that I die. And reason being is because we did something that nobody expected us to do.
Absolutely.
We came out on top, and that feeling, man, when everybody's literally against you and you're the only person in the whole thing to believe that you're going to make it, it's incredible. Second game is Penn State. Penn State was the first time we played Penn State was incredible. The Heinz Field was stacked to the max. Everybody wanted to see one team or another play, but it was like a high school game all over again. And it was truly amazing just to see the multiple people that we had that were like truly there to watch us play. Like we had Penn State on one side and you had Pitt on the other, and both of them wanted to see a different outcome. My third game is a high school game against Highlands. Crazy game. We ended up losing that game, which is tough. It was really tough, but even to this day, it's probably the loudest game I played in, which is nuts. And people would laugh at me when I say a high school game is one of the loudest games I play in, but I just remember being on the field and not being able to hear myself talk.
Did you play in Apollo or did you play down in Natrona Heights?
I played in Natrona Heights, so it was a crazy game. Pitt was there. A couple other schools were there. We ended up losing 27-28. Crazy game. The birdie had caught it. But we were down 21 at half. It was a comeback. It was looking like a comeback win. It was just a whole crazy experience. It was definitely a Friday Night Lights type experience.
What's exciting about that for you is the fact that you guys were what? Apollo Ridge is 1A, 2A, and Highlands is what? 4A school.
Right.
So you're playing outside of your comfort zone in terms of size.
But the biggest thing for us was to compete. That's the one thing I'm all about is competition. If you want to compete, then you got to compete.
Yeah.
There's no crying. There's no second guessing. Just go out there and compete. Do your thing. Do what must be done. So that was our thing, man. We unfortunately ended up coming out and losing, but it was a really good game. I'll never forget that game. Then Iowa was really crazy. Kicked almost a 60-yard field goal. And then he probably had more than that. We ended up losing by literally a field goal. We had T. Boyd back there. And this guy probably kicked it from honestly, it felt like 64. It looked like 64. It was crazy. Never to this day I ever seen somebody kick something that deep. And then my fifth one's definitely Miami, just because we had a bad season that year. It wasn't our greatest season, but the energy was different. They were number 2. We were unranked 5. We were 4-7 at the time. We were like, look, man, we either going to do what we do or we're going home. So we ended up coming out with a win, and that was crazy. That was definitely a crazy experience.
You had some great games you played, and I think you're going to have everything goes all right. You're going to have some great games this year, and I'm going to hopefully see you playing some great games on Sunday nights too, or on Sundays as well. I mean, I know you got a lot of skill. You bring a lot to the table. It's very exciting to talk to you and hear all your aspirations. The whole program you guys put together, the L.OV.E program, is a phenomenal thing for a young person to put together, recognize that they need to to have some direction and lead some people in a way who are suffering and need that direction as well. So that's fantastic. I got a side question for you here. Should Pitt have its own stadium to play football?
Oh man, listen, I talk about this more than anything. I personally wanted my own stadium just because like I love the Pitt atmosphere, man. But there's also nothing like playing at Heinz Field, so it's a tough conversation, you know. But who wouldn't want their own stadium on campus? You know, to give it that college atmosphere. It's definitely tough with games being in the city. Kids find it hard to get to the games and whatnot, but man, to have a stadium on campus. I was always trying to think like of a way to like get it next to the cathedral, like however it may be, however it could come about. But
Yeah.
like it would definitely be great to have one on campus.
I went to the last Pitt game at Pitt Stadium. I was at that game, and that was something to behold. So I miss those games there. That was a cool place. The old AstroTurf. In fact, I played in that stadium when I was in high school.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. It was great talking to you, Trey. I wish you nothing
Sure.
but the best going
I
forward.
appreciate you.
I'll be following what you're doing this year. I know you're going to have a great season. I'm looking forward to seeing what the Panthers put on the field and watching them excel on both sides of the ball. I think Coach Narduzzi gets it. He's got a great thing going on there. So thanks again for coming on the show, and we'll be watching you.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
Take care.
You too.